Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we are still talking about self-care, but today is the emotional part of self-care. You know, the feelings that you have, and one of the first things I'm going to tell you, and what's really important to remember is, I am not a professional. Not a professional at all. In fact, I have notes right here, which I will be referring to, because I don't want to mess this up, because one of the big things to remember is, like, what I'm telling you works for me, but it might not work for you, and you might need to see somebody professionally to see if, you can handle this. Because my philosophy, remember this is my philosophy, is I know that the emotions are too much when it starts being most of my life. Like, if I'm angry and this anger starts affecting what I'm doing or starts taking away from other things that I would be doing, then I know that, hey, there's a problem. I am one of these people who I like to step away. So when I get too angry, too sad, too anxious, I like to step away. But I also learned something interesting. Did you know that you can be too happy and too euphoric and too joyful that sometimes you also need to step away? Let me give you an extreme example. You win the lottery. Hooray! Good job, you won the lottery. So in that moment of excitement and thrilling, and you're all happy, you decide you're going to share half your winnings with these people who are at the store with you. Yeah. That's a moment when probably you should have stepped away to see. Maybe you might want to come back and do that later on, but at that moment you are making a decision which is going to affect the rest of your life for that one euphoric moment. And for me, that's part of my emotional self-care, is the fact that I have to look at things and say, okay, take a moment. And I didn't realize that that was all part of self-care. Referring to my notes now. The big thing about emotional self-care is you have to take a moment to then understand your needs and meet those needs that you are trying to understand. That's an important thing about this, because part of this is not just dealing with your needs and your emotions, but also understanding where did they come from, how can you develop new strategies for it, and things like that. Because it's really easy to do surface stuff. I am angry, I need to then figure out what's causing me to be angry. And then, like I said, these are only for mild emotions. These are not things that last for days. These are not things that take over your life. These are things which are probably pretty temporary. And I'll say this probably 1,000 times. If you have other emotions which are absolutely seem to be consuming your life, you probably want to talk to somebody who has professional training in these things, not a random YouTube guy who started doing this simply because he felt overwhelmed one week. Yeah. But I have, like I said, I've learned a lot, but there's still a lot more that I need to learn, and that's what this is all about. Me sharing what I've learned. Links to my resources are down below in the description, but also telling you what's worked for me so far. One of the things to think about is, okay, so I'm going to deal with my emotional self-care. How? How exactly? Well, one of the first things is you need to acknowledge your feelings. And that's okay. The people who tell you, well, you shouldn't feel like that, well, maybe you should. Maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. It's the individual time and everything. But acknowledging that you feel this certain way is a good step. And one of the best ways to do that is journaling. Writing down what's going on, why you feel like that, can also lead you to start thinking about, well, okay, what was the root cause of this? What is the reason that I'm feeling this way? Or did something happen that brought these feelings up? And once you start doing that and you can start analyzing things, then it's just like, oh, okay, there is a pattern, and if you can find the pattern, you might be able to find the root cause of this. But once again, not a professional here. I'm going to tell you what works for me in journaling, and also I do a weekly vlog where I talk about what's going on, my feelings about what's going on. So that really helps, but also it really helps by reflecting upon it, going back and checking out your journal and saying, hey, every time I do this makes me feel bad. Maybe I shouldn't do this. because there are a lot of things where people are trying to deal with their emotions and they come at this in a really bad spot where they do self-harm, they try to do self-medication, they act out, they bully, they're aggressive. Those aren't great things. No, we want to think about things that we can do which will actually boost us, help us, versus things that we will do which will actually cause harm to others or cause harm to ourselves. And that's an important part. You want to be able to, if it's a temporary thing, if I'm sad, maybe I'll watch a funny video. That works. I've done that quite often. Hop on YouTube, watch something funny, maybe watch a funny movie. If I feel anxious, one of the things which I find if I feel anxious is to do a lot of deep breathing exercises. If I'm feeling depressed, I probably will either read a funny story or do something, go outside and do something fun. Do something that I enjoy. Listening to music can also raise those vibrations. Maybe that's what you kids say these days. Will help me. I'll do a vibe check on the whole situation and see what I can do to bring that in. Also, one of the things which I found which works for me is to go back in my past history of pictures and look at those. So that also ties into the whole, a lot of times where something seems completely overwhelming at the moment, I sort of distract myself from the moment. And I like to take pictures. You can take pictures of anything. Mundane things, that sort of thing. And next thing you know, you start to enjoy yourself and enjoy what you're doing. And it helps to move you out of that mood. Is this a foolproof plan? Not in the least. No. The other thing about this is curate those pictures. If you have pictures that you took when you were angry and all they do is make you feel angry, delete them. Get rid of them. Also, pictures are one of those weird things where they can make you feel good, they can make you feel bad. If you are one of these people who I've gotten really mad at this person, so I'm going to delete every single picture of that person, probably not the best idea, especially if you're related to them or something. You might want to remove them from where you see them all the time, save them onto a flash drive, something, so that way, if your opinion changes of that, you haven't just gotten rid of it. You haven't just absolutely destroyed any memory over something which it might have even been a misunderstanding, but yet in the moment, it seemed like a good idea. And that's where this whole emotional thing is, where when you decide to act upon something, hopefully you are coming from a rational, even kind of place, because sometimes that is the best thing to do, is to delete things which are giving you those horrendous feelings. So that can be a good move as long as you are coming at this from a rational, calm point of view. Now, that being said, I am also one of these people who if I get really, really mad, I get really, really calm. Still. The still before a storm? Oh yeah, that's also just as bad. But once again, it has nothing to do with me dealing with my emotions. It has to do with me putting this front in front of people to let them think that I am all calm and cool and collected, and you barely hear me saying anything. That's when you know something bad's going to happen. The other thing that you can do is vent. That's one of the things I love about doing these YouTube vlogs that I do for my Patreon people and my channel members. I can vent. I can tell them the whole story from my perspective. That's important. Whenever you hear somebody tell a story, it's from their perspective, and their perspective might not be what everybody else saw. So I can tell them that, I can ask them questions, I can get some feedback from people, and that's really important. It's another way of dealing with your emotions, is to get an outside source to help you process this. Now, can that outside source be just as bad and be encouraging you to do bad things? Yeah, they can. But if you get an objective outside source, say somebody who has actual training in this, you can do some really good things, but you don't have to do that. If you are feeling something that you want to, if it's a bad feeling and you want to move past it, Like, do things that you enjoy. I enjoy gardening, I enjoy listening to music, I enjoy reading, I enjoy going for a ride. All of those things are things that will help me boost my mood. And that's important. Maybe I don't need to boost my mood. Maybe I'm just so happy that I want to bring my mood back to an even, let's be rational kind of thing. So then I'll just sit and calmly reflect or enjoy the moment and, like, really enjoy it. Like, enjoy the moment, feel the happiness, but not make any major life decisions that I might regret later on. So, understanding my moods is really important. Okay, so processing your emotions, very important. Making sure that, what you're feeling is, one, it's a it's on par with what happened. So if you're feeling super angry because somebody forgot to say something to you about something small, was your reaction the same on the same level as that? If it's not, you might want to do something about that. If it is, you might still want to do something about that. How you react to things is all about your emotional self-care. Making sure that your emotions do not run away with you. Making sure that you are in a good place for you. Making sure that your life goes the way you want it to without having to regret the decisions that you made in an impulsive moment. And like I said, one of the big things that I do if I'm super, super, super angry or something like that, and it's one of those, I'm going to throw away all these things, put it in a box and put it in the back of the closet so that way it might be a few weeks, a few months later that I'm like, oh, I really didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to delete all those pictures of that person simply because I was angry at that moment. I wanted to calm down, work through my emotions, face my emotions, see what caused them, how I can do what I can do with that feeling, and how I can make myself feel better, and how I can avoid said situation again. Because once you figure out ways to work through your emotions, once you figure out ways of dealing with those sticky situations that come up, that's important. So your emotional self-care is also trying to keep yourself from getting into those sticky situations that come up. So if there's a way that you can avoid putting yourself in, I guess you'd say, harm's way, emotional harm's way, you might want to avoid those situations. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't avoid those emotional situations, but other times you really can. And if you have to, you have to. That's what's important. You will find that there will be times where people, especially professionals, will tell you sometimes you need to lessen the amount of time that you're with the person who puts you into that mindset. Sometimes you need to increase the amount of time of a person who helps you calm down and think about things in a nice, rational, calm kind of way. The other thing which I have found, which I do not understand people, with the people who listen to music, when they're really mad, they listen to aggressive music. That does not calm me. Like I said, for me, aggressive music is not calming. No, if I'm mad, I want to listen to calm, nice music. There are all sorts of meditations that you can find. There are all sorts of things that you can do, but self-harm, bullying people, those things are bad. Also, the avoidance through chemicals, through that sort of thing, not a great idea, not the best move. You want to be able to process these things, because the other part about this is once you have some sort of, we'll call it maybe assisted courage, as in like chemical assisted liquid courage, as they say. So it might also have you doing things which you would normally not do. But the bigger part about this is always think about your emotions, acknowledge that you are having that emotion, see if you can figure out what is causing that emotion, and it might not be at that moment that you need to do that. You might need to calm yourself down first, or hype yourself up first, and then look at it. And all of those things are fine. All of those things are good as long as you are doing this in a way that does not harm yourself or anyone else. And if you need to seek an outside individual who is a professional at dealing with these things, please do. Do not look down on people who go and seek extra help. No, that's great. It's their way of dealing with their emotions or dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with. And that is wonderful. We need to encourage more people to do that, because once you have that emotional self-care, once you know that you are taking care of yourself, you can also help take care of other people. And that's really important. I'd love to hear how you deal with your emotional self-care. Let me know down in the comments. Also, I'd like to take this time to thank these wonderful people who have seen me go through my moments where I am just like flying off the handle. And they are rational, reasonable people, and they help talk me through these things, and I learn from them. Hopefully they learn from me. If you want to become part of that wonderful family where we can share our experiences, you can join Patreon, or you can join the channel members, which helps support this channel. But it's a lot of fun there. I hope this was enlightening somewhat. And remember, there are so many other things that you can learn, so many things that you can take away from this. It's all an ongoing journey. It just isn't a one-stop shop. This is something that you can do and move forward with it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I get to see you again the next time you stop by.